if someone has a loved one who's battling this disease, or has battled it, it gives them a little insight into what we deal with, on a daily basis, trying to get clean and sober.
My name is Jenna Lanini, a serial optimist navigating the intricate paths of recovery in real estate. And since April 2018, I've embraced a sober life, finding success through the magic of perspective. And in 2021, I dove headfirst into the world of real estate with no prior experience, but equipped with a mindset that's proven to be my most powerful asset, enabling me to sell over 10 million my first year, which I've continued to surpass every year since. What's the secret to success? We all want to know. But it's not just the know-how or the years of practice. It's the transformative power of perspective. It's about seeing possibilities where others spot roadblocks, choosing to amplify the positive over the negative, and harnessing a newfound perspective as a catalyst to achieve anything. Join me as we uncover the power of shifting perspectives. Each episode will unravel the ability of our thoughts to transform obstacles into opportunities and doubts into determination. Because in this thing called life, the true game changer is not merely our skills or knowledge. It is the ability to reshape our outlook so we can ignite the flame of possibility that exists even in the darkest of circumstances. So buckle up, y'all, as we embark on an enlightening journey that will unlock the hidden power of our minds. This is Mind Shift, where we embrace the transformative power of perspective to achieve the unimaginable. Well, I am so excited. Today we have, not only am I excited to have a podcast guest, but I have not seen you in probably 5 years.
5 years, yep.
Since you left Reno and all of us and moved to Florida. So I'm super excited today. Robbie Carney is here on the podcast, and his wife is also here in the background, Diane. We just love them so much. And most people that listen to this know you guys.
Yeah.
And obviously there'll be probably different people too that'll be introduced to you in your story.
Yes.
But Robbie, I met in Reno, and through the recovery community, which is what we're going to be talking about today, the book he wrote, Unscarred. And I think the very first, one of the best things I say about recovery are the people that I met very early on. And you and Diane and Dave are those people.
Yes.
And Kelly, who passed. There's a few people that I can name one hand that you meet and leave an impression on people very early on in their recovery. And then I don't think you realize the weight of those interactions as somebody with time in the program that you have on newcomers, which I know that you do. Right? But you are that person. And Diane was that person. And you come in and I see you guys flourishing almost to the point where it's I can't even imagine this was your life.
I know.
Because when we meet you, it's you're unscarred, right?
Hence unscarred. There it is. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's oh my God, if this person can live this life, maybe I can too. So I'm so happy that you're here to talk about your book. So give us a little introduction about who you are, where you are now, and what brought you to Reno.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me here and helping me get the book out.
Yeah.
I'm Rob Carney. I'm the author of Unscarred. And yes, it was a pleasure watching you grow, and that's one of the gifts we have in sobriety.
Yeah.
Watching people come in and get their lives together and grow and flourish. And it's just been a gift watching you do that. I wrote the book. I lived in Reno and I have a moving company here for 15 years.
Yeah, and I'm sure people literally have seen the truck still, Carney Movers.
I still get texts from people. They'll pass my, one of my old trucks on the freeway and just take a picture and send it to me. So.
Yeah, because it's still a thriving business here in Reno.
Oh, yes.
So if you need movers.
Yes, a big plug for Carney's Movers. Yeah. I'm actually going to see them tomorrow morning.
Oh, good.
Yeah, most of those people are still working there that I hired, so that's great.
So cool. And I loved in the book how you had the previous life leading up in our addictions.
Yeah.
This experience with a moving company, right? And working as a young kid, so which we'll get to, but I loved that so much.
Exactly.
So in Reno, you guys were here for how long?
15 years.
Cool. Yeah. And you came from where when you moved to Reno?
San Diego.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Okay.
We got married in '96. I was 4 years sober and Diane was 7.
Oh yes, I always forget you have more time.
Oh yes.
Yes.
She's 3 years, which We honeymooned in San Diego, and we went home and sold everything we had and moved out there 3 weeks later.
So cool.
Yes, I mean it's and it's all documented in here, and that's all a result of being and staying clean and sober.
Yeah.
That's throughout the book. I talk about that. The life we've been handed is just unbelievable, and I'm super grateful for.
Oh, yeah.
But I do realize that without recovery and sobriety, none of that would be possible.
For sure.
So we moved out to San Diego, and I started my first moving company there. And this book also, it talks about a lot about hope, a lot about perseverance, a lot about childhood abuse.
Yeah.
And alcoholism and drug addiction, but it also talks about miracles.
Yep.
And some of the miracles that occurred in my life were getting that moving license, that first moving license, because I am, a 2-time convicted felon.
Yep.
And they don't usually give licenses to people to come and take all your personal belongings, put it on a truck, and drive away with it. With 2-time convicted felons, correct. But a lot of praying, a lot of hard work. God made it possible for me to do that.
Yeah.
And we were there for 9 years, and of course it was a very successful business because I ran it alcoholically, and that means I had no boundaries.
Yep.
And I ran it 24/7, and I burned out.
Yeah.
So after 9 years, I sold it, and we had been coming out to Reno for different things, the rib cook-off, and all the AA functions. So we talked about coming here, and so we sold the business, we sold our house, and we came out here in 2005. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And this place has been a blessing. I will tell you. So we got sober in New York. We lived and recovered in San Diego for 9 years. We were here for 15, and we've been in Florida for 5.
Yeah.
There's no place like Reno, Nevada. I will tell you.
Yeah.
And I mean, the mountains are nice, the lakes are nice, the foothills are nice, the wild horses are nice, but the people, you just can't find people like that anywhere. And
it's and from what you're saying too, from the experiences you've had in these different places too,
Yeah.
Florida, San Diego, I mean, New York, it's like good places that people move to.
Yes.
So I'm kind of happy that Reno is on the number one of your list.
It really is. It's the people, and it's the recovery,
Yeah.
The recovery community, and all those places. I talk about it in the book.
Yeah.
Once a month, we have a party at someone's house
Yeah.
to celebrate, milestones in recovery.
For sure.
And they don't have that other places.
Interesting.
It's a lot of different things that they don't have.
Yeah.
And the people here, they, we left. I burned out again.
Yeah.
I tried my hardest. I could see the signs coming.
Yeah.
But
You're saying you burnt out from the Reno Carney too?
Yes, I did.
And then you retired, right?
Yes,
with the
and
5
then
years ago.
and I'm done now.
Yeah. Which I think you deserve the
Yeah,
retirement.
I would say 24 years of that work straight is, quite.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's stressful.
And I think for some people listening too, like who are in recovery, they can probably relate to like running businesses alcoholically, because I do the same thing in my business.
Yes.
And it's almost like a good thing for me, right? Mental health, like I know helps my squirrel brain. It's like get busy.
Exactly.
But we need to remember too, it can't just be about those things. And so that's a good reminder. So what is your sobriety date?
April 4th. 1992. So tomorrow.
Why did we do this tomorrow?
I know. Tomorrow I'll have 33 years at clean and sober. Yeah.
I always forget. Yeah, you're April, because then I'm April 23rd.
That's
and I'll have 7.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around the corner.
So just a little bit of time. 33 years. Wow. Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about what made you want to write the book. And the quote that I really like here is somebody said to you, you've been blessed, now go bless others.
Right.
And I love that, right? And we're taught that in AA, in the 12-step, in all the rooms, is to be of service.
Correct.
And I think a lot of us that find time and find, not success, it's not a good word, but like when you find the time and you can stay sober, it's usually because you're doing something for somebody else. So is that kind of the idea for the book?
It is. And that quote came from my guy, Mind-𝒮𝒽𝒾𝒻𝓉. And, the characters in this book, they're all real.
I was going to ask that,
Yes. They're absolutely 100% real. Mike-𝒮𝒽𝒾𝒻 had passed, and that is his real nickname.
I was going to ask. Okay.
And yes, anyone who passed, I use their real names.
Okay.
The three gentlemen, Homer, Chris, and Mike-𝒮𝒽𝒽𝒻, those are three of the angels that helped me along my way.
Wow.
And they've all passed, so I've used their names, and I've asked their families if it was okay, and they said yes.
I bet they're thrilled.
Yes,
I mean,
all the other characters that are in the book, I changed all their names,
Okay.
and I called them before I sent it to the publisher, and I said,
Wow.
look, you're in my book, I changed your name, but if you read the book, you're going to know it's you. So I'm going to read you what I wrote, and you'll have three options. You can say, take it out.
Yeah.
No. You could say, yes, but change this.
Wow.
Or you could say, run with it.
Yeah.
And every one of them said, run with it. Yeah.
With the changed name?
Yes, with the changed name.
Interesting.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wrote it was, well, first of all, I believed I'm blessed, and I work for the big guy, and my job is to help other alcoholics and addicts, try to get clean and sober.
Yep.
Over COVID, we were locked down in Florida, and so we were going to meetings on Zoom.
Yeah.
So what Diane Sponsor, who's also does therapy and a few other things, she helps a lot of people, did a ACOA. She did a thing with 7 people on Zoom once a week, and we went through the steps. Adult children of alcoholics.
Okay.
So I did that, and I said, hey, I'm sure I qualify, because if you read my book, you'll know.
You do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I wrote about my childhood.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I looked at it and I went, oh my God, no wonder.
Yep.
No wonder.
Yeah.
Like when I found, alcohol and drugs, I took to it,
Yep.
like a fish to water,
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I don't know if what happened to me as a kid caused me to become an alcoholic and addict, or I just happened to be a blossoming alcoholic and addict who happened to be abused and had some child abuse. I don't know. And guess what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'm a pickle now.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And that's it.
And the truth is you being honest in this circumstance could potentially help somebody that went through that, had the same thing, and didn't know how to cope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that the second thing that happened was I heard somebody, a sports figure that I really admire, tell his story on Zoom. And he talked about a sexual assault as a child.
Yeah.
And he talked about it as if he had dealt with it. Mm-hmm. It just was, hey, this is what happened to me. And I thought, wow. Now, I did share that with my sponsor when I did my 4th and 5th step.
Yeah.
But I had never shared it openly, especially like that. And I thought, wow, and that really helped me.
And this was recently during the COVID.
That was during the COVID.
Lockdown.
When we were locked down.
And so you had already had decades of time.
Yes. So 2 things happened. One, he shared that, and I thought, look how helpful that was to me, and how many people he's probably helped.
Yeah.
And also, doing the ACOA and taking a look at my childhood. So I had a collection of short stories I did when I was in prison.
Oh.
And when I was in prison, I took a college, an associate degree program. And
you graduated.
Well, one of those classes was creative writing. It's actually in there, and I actually had a little thing with the teacher that I had a big learning experience.
Yeah.
So I looked through the short stories, and I thought, let me do it. A lot of people had told me, write a book, write a book. So I said, I have the time, let me go. And so I started it, and I got about 50 or 60 pages in, and I thought, oh, also, my beautiful wife gave me a book for either my birthday, and it's called How to Write the Book You Were Born to Write. And so all these 3 things happened at the same time.
Yeah.
ACOA, the gentleman who shared that secret, and I read the book. And I thought, okay, and that book helped me tremendously. It also offered courses. I took a 15-hour, 3-hour a night, 5 night, for the week, online course about writing the book. And then Kelly Nataris, who is the author of that book, had videos, you know, about every step of the way of writing. So I could always go back to them. So what I did was every morning at 5 o'clock, I got up and I would wake Diane at 6:30 for us to walk our dogs on the beach. But from 5 to 6:30, I wrote.
So cool.
I got on my knees. I asked God, I go, please help me be honest. Help me put my ego aside and let me be helpful. Yeah. And I wrote, and I wrote. Wow. And I'll tell you, some of the stuff was rough.
I bet.
Because I had to revisit a lot of things that, well, you know, were hurtful when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And even as an adult, you know. But I would go see her sponsor.
And, cool. For the ACOA.
Yes.
That same...
Once a week, and she would bring me back to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, bring me back to now.
Incredible.
So I just kept writing, and 2 years and 4 months into it, I finally finished it.
That's not too long. I mean, I'm sure if you're writing, it feels like a long time, but it's like, and now it's really the start of something really exciting, but really 2 months to do something that could be a lifetime of.
I had a couple of. At one point, it was really bothering me. I put it down for a little bit, a couple of weeks, and I had a Catholic big brother who's also in the book, Bob Posh, and he called me and he said, "How's the book?" He also was telling me, write your book.
Yes.
So he said, "How's the book going?" And I went, "Well, I think I have writer's block, because I can't pick it up." He goes, "Robbie, you're writing your memoir. Just write down what happened. You can't have writer's block."
It's your life.
I went, "I have to go right now." And so I got right
and
back
then you got
on
right
it.
back
I got,
in it. And like we were talking about before kind of we started, I think that we're so blessed to be, and I always say this as an alcoholic myself, like I always say I am so blessed to be an alcoholic and in recovery, and I get the chance to share my story, and you become a better public speaker for sure, right? Because you're talking about some really awful things.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine, because somebody was asking, like, well, how's his book? And I'm like, it's his story. Like, it's a lot more detailed, clearly. And a lot of things that not most people probably wouldn't have known about you right offhand. But it's so cool that we do have that gift to really be honest about what's happened and then move forward from it, right? And like what it is, like our experience can benefit others. This is a huge example of that.
Right.
But it was really cool when I was reading this. So my husband also spent time in jail and prison and county, and we counted it at one point. And he was on an episode last season, so I'll send it to you.
Cool.
Maybe you'll listen.
Yeah.
Because I always tell him to write a book too. But now I'm like, you have to.
Yeah.
Because some people, I think, and maybe this is because we're biased, but like some people have better stories. You know, your guys' story is just incredible. Spending time, having all these felonies, and he became a firefighter for the state of Nevada, and they told him, like, there's no way. Yeah. So really, like, your story, the same thing with the state of California and the moving company, that in and of itself, just the small portion of your other huge moments, is really cool for people to understand. Yeah. You don't have to live this life that people are maybe saying that you're destined to live.
Absolutely. You know, what you've done, and it doesn't define you.
No.
You know, I talk about it in here. I went to the last rehab I went to. They had, one of the things they did is, I was the newest person, so they had a meeting where they put me in the middle of the room in a chair. They made a circle around me. They turned the lights off. They put a candle on, and the counselor said to me, "Robbie, I want you to go back before you ever took a drink or a drug, and I want you to describe that kid to me." So I described this kid who was out hustling all the time. I was a little adventurer. Yeah. I was always trying to make money. I gave my mom half because, you know, we were on welfare and it was rough. Yeah. And you know, I had a little sister, and I looked out for her. So I described this cool little kid, you know, with a big heart. And so after it was over, about 10, 15 minutes I talked, and then she said, "Okay, that's cool." So then she said to me at the end of the thing, she goes, "So that kid that you described, that's Robbie. Yep. That's who you are. Now, add drugs and alcohol, and now you have someone else."
Yes.
And so that really made me understand it, you know. Wow. Also, there's a part in there, I talk about this girl, Penny, that I lived with for a couple of years. And I do what, active alcoholic and drug addicts do. I disappointed her constantly. I would get paid and not come home till Tuesday. I'd get paid Friday. And the third or fourth time I came home, again with my tail between my legs, and she goes, you're crazy. And I go, I'm crazy. I go, this is your house. Like, you keep letting me in. Why do you do that? Like, I had no other answer for her.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she goes, I fell in love with the guy that's in there, and I'm just waiting for him to come back out. Oh my God, forget it. I broke my heart, and it told me I was still in there, and I was redeemable.
For sure.
Yeah. So there's work to do.
Yes.
I just want to say that when I was in and out for 18 months of the 12-step meetings. I didn't take it serious, and when I finally took it serious and I got a sponsor and I went through the 12 steps, imagine going to a 12-step program and not doing the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Something's wrong there.
It doesn't work like that.
But I finally did it, and I found a higher power. My life turned around.
Yeah.
My life absolutely turned around. And the miracles I talk about in the book, like starting the businesses and, having this whole new life. I explain that my God, the way my higher power works is, I talk about moving that mound of dirt.
Yeah.
So there's 100-foot high dirt and it's 50-foot wide, and then I say to God, God help me, I have to move this 100 yards up the road. And what happens? Clank, he drops a shovel, and I go like, what? And he goes, that's it.
That's what you asked for.
And I start shoveling, and and 3 days later with blisters, I show up every day. I put 6-8 hours in.
Yeah.
On the third day, 4 hours in, a guy comes by with a payloader, and he goes, hey, look out, let me make a couple of trips for you, I'll knock it out. And he moves the mountain. The thing is, if I'm not standing there on the third day with the shovel in my hand, sweating with blisters, I missed the guy.
Yeah. Wow.
So all these things that I attempted, to start these businesses, to have a new life, to ask this beautiful woman to marry me, my disease tells me, no. There's no way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I pick the shovel up, I ask God for help, and I start shoveling.
Yeah.
And put the work in, and things happen. So.
Yes. So now, in this story, this is just your life, which is crazy, right? Because we talk about, I'm like, this wonderful story you've written. It's like, no, this is your life. That page turner. So you ended up going and spending time, right? Like going to jail, right? And then after that, so you tried to get sober, and then also were 18 months in and out after coming out.
Yes. Well, I explain in here, I did 5 years.
Yep.
And I worked out. I was in great shape. I got the college degree. I had started building up relationships again because, I got out, and what I didn't have was I had the great working out. I had the college degree.
Yeah.
I didn't have recovery.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a higher power. So all that stuff was well and good.
Yeah.
But, and I also, I say it in here, I didn't have a higher power to help me with a problem I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So
Right.
you can have all these things. I built up a relationship. I had this great job. All this stuff is going good. But, once I took a couple of drinks, it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking because, 3 years I was trying to get myself going. And I didn't understand what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
But when I went back the second time, I got I went back for 18 months the second time, and I got a year and 4 days clean and sober. I started a meeting in there with an outside H&I came in and asked someone to help them start, and I explained all that in here. And we got a meeting going, and I stayed clean and sober for 104 days, a year and 4 days.
Okay.
So.
I think most people don't realize too that when you go, because I think you hear this like offhanded comment with people that don't understand like the magnitude of the addiction problem. We're like, oh, maybe they need to go to jail, straighten themselves out.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand you go to jail and the drugs, everything is there.
Yes.
Everything. It's even harder
there.
to stay sober. And that's like something that my husband says too, right? So when he made that decision, and for you, right, bringing H&I in and being productive in your own recovery, because you knew it's just as hard to stay sober in there, if not harder.
Yes.
So that's really cool. Okay, so 104 days, and then what?
Then I made parole, and it's about a 6-hour ride from, Ogdensburg, New York to Port Authority. And I had a plan. And when I got there, I was calling central office. I was going to a meeting. I was going to raise my hand. I just got out. I was going to get a sponsor. I had it all worked out. And alone in that bus with myself.
6 hours.
Yes. I explained about this little man in the cage who talks to me all the time and tries to get me to to have a beer or a drink or, or a drug. Started talking. And I thought, my sister smokes weed and her boyfriend's there. And I just did 18 months. I don't want to seem weird, maybe I'll just smoke a joint. And that's what changed. And that, alone with myself, for those 6 hours. And I had went from having an absolute clear plan to I'm just going to smoke a joint. And so that was the beginning of the 18 months in and out. I got there. Of course, I smoked a joint. And then I started making a meeting every night. I would go to work, come home, have dinner with her, go to a meeting, leave the meeting, turn the corner, and light up a joint. And I thought, this is not bad. I think I could work this out.
It's funny too, because in your story, when you, in the beginning, because when before you started using heroin, you were like, I'll never do that. I'm going to smoke some weed. I'm going to sell some weed. It's going to be great.
Yes.
And then after you kind of tried to get off the heroin, right, you went back to the selling weed thing. And I think it's interesting that people are like, and whatever your sobriety or recovery looks like, I don't judge. But it is interesting if it were me too. I was never a weed smoker. So if I decided to be like, hey, I'm going to light a joint up. That is my man in a cage telling me it is A-okay for you to do.
And the thing I try to get across in the book is, once you let that guy out, and you can let him out by taking a drink, a snort, a toke, a shot, whatever it is. Once you let him out, it's very, very hard to get him back in. Very hard. It took me months sometimes to get him back in there. But I say the one right thing I did in those 18 months, because there's a number of relapses. You read the book and you start cheering for me. And you go, no, don't do it. And it's it's so strong, that obsession and compulsion. People don't really understand that. And I think one of the things I tried to do in the book was, if someone has a loved one who's battling this disease, or has battled it, it gives them a little insight into what we deal with, on a daily basis, trying to get clean and sober. And then trying to stay clean and sober. So that analogy, that one guy came in, the last detox I ever went to was in Brooklyn. I was kicking heroin, and a young black gentleman came in, well-dressed, laughing. He wore recovery well. And he talked about that little man in the cage.
Yes, I love that part.
And I will tell you that he gave me something to talk back to. Because once it started going, I go, oh, no. Wait a second. Are you awake? No. I don't think so. Not today. And he will, if he can't get you to drink a drug, he'll just settle for making you miserable or angry or jealous or, fear. He'll try anything to get your fear going. As I talk about a couple of times in the book, a situation will occur. And I'll see him in his cage going, ooh, I'm going to have fun with this. Oh, yeah. You know? And then I go, no, not today, no matter what. I'm not going to drink a drug.
For sure.
Yeah.
So after that 18 months in and out, what was it that you think brought you back to now 33 years?
I was so tired of, in and out. And also, the one thing I did different this time that I hadn't done in those 18 months was, I went to a man and said, I need help. And I talk about him in here, Johnny W., Johnny Walsh. He has passed, and he gave me help. He set up a place. He said, Robbie, let's try this. I want you to do 5 things. Don't drink a drug a day at a time. Make a meeting every day. Get a sponsor that'll take you through the steps. join a home group, get active in it, and pray your ass off. So I did those 5 things, but I was okay when I was at a meeting. I was okay when I was talking to him. I was okay when I talked to my new sponsor, or I was talking to someone in recovery on the phone. I was good, but the minute I was alone, I was not good. I wanted to drink and drug bad. I was dreaming about it. You know, it was tough. And after a couple of weeks, I went back. We went and had coffee, me and Johnny W. And he said, "How's it going?" And I go, "Well, you know, it's great when I'm at a meeting or with, you know, my sponsor or talking to you." I go, "But when I'm by myself, I mean, I am having a rough time, man." He goes, "Well, have you asked God for help?" And I go, "Ask God for help?" I go, "You can ask for help with things like that?" And he goes, "Absolutely, man." He goes, "You can ask God for help with anything." So I started to ask God for help. What happened was this. I'd be driving back from work. I'd get off early that day. I got a few free hours. And the little guy would go, "Psst, hey, Robbie, we got a few hours, man. You know, let's just stop and have a couple of beers. Like, you know, maybe pick up a little Coke and, yeah, we'll take the night off. You know, we'll go back to meetings tomorrow, you know." And so as soon as that happened, I would start to, this is how it worked. I'd have a thought. I'd see a picture in my head. I'd get a physical reaction, and then the car would take me where I'm not supposed to be. Thought came, the picture came, I'd start to pray. I would say the Our Father to myself over and over. By the second or third Our Father, it would be like turning the channel on a TV. The picture would change.
Oh, wow.
And the feeling would pass. And I go, wow, that worked. So I did that sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day. However many times it came when I was by myself. And then I noticed, you know, 3 or 4 weeks, it was only 2 or 3 times a day. 4, 5, 6 weeks, once, twice a day. And then I got a free day. At the end of the day, I thought, wow, this really works. This is happening. And then I got it maybe once, a couple of days later, and boom, it's been lifted. I have thoughts about lots of things, but the compulsion and obsession to use and drink is gone. And I thought, wow, okay. So, you know, I had to keep showing up with that shovel.
For sure.
Every day. But, you know, that guy with the payloader came by. After 5 or 6 weeks, he said, "Get out of the way, I got this." And it's been gone. And so, you know, and now I realize that, you know, I have a higher power. I have a God that is with me, you know.
It's
all the
so
time.
cool like that when you're talking about the dial, right? Because I'm such a huge like energetic like frequency person. And I just think we were for so long, you know, down so low. And even if you have like a perfect recovery story, like, right? We lived in this realm for so long that when you get sober, it's like a really different, it's a foreign place for us. So it's like and people always told me like, "You're on this pink cloud," and she always told me, "You don't have to get off."
That's
and I
right.
never have.
You don't have to get off.
But it really was, you know, you found this thing, but whatever that is for you, for me, it was that shift in perspective. Like I could have so easily not been here. And so to be grateful every day that I am here and healthy. And I had a doctor finally tell me like, "But your liver's great." Like that to me is insane. So for me, I just hold on to that. And that is that. And so like for you praying, that constant reminder for me, like, no, this life is so good. Remember? Oh yeah. And then all of a sudden you'll have days and you're grateful, but you don't think about it like it's our job. In the beginning, sometimes it really feels like a job to like remind yourself. But the prayer is so cool, power of prayer. And, you know, for anybody listening to this that does have a problem, right? Or maybe as opposed to that higher power notion, we talk about it a lot in AA. Right? It can be whatever.
That's right.
You know, so don't let it freak you out. It can literally be whatever. It could be your frequency, it could be energy, it could be aliens, it could be all sorts of things.
So I tell this to newcomers because this is what I did. When Johnny Walsh made that suggestion to me to ask God and I were not on good terms. I was like, you know, it's me, you know. Are you even going to answer the phone, you know? And so what I did was this. I called it just in case praying.
I love that.
I did this. I said, just in case you're up there, I need help. Help me. I need to get through this, you know, these few moments right now and not pick up a drink or a drug. And then I started saying the Our Father.
So cool.
You know, but so I just in case you're up there. And, you know, and he started to answer me. He started to answer me. And, when I went to get my first license, which I probably would not have gotten, I asked him for help and I got it. When I went to get my second license here, I had a hearing with the Attorney General was at the hearing. And, there was a good chance that I would not get it. I asked and I got it, So again, yes, I tell new guys, if you have a problem with that, just in case.
Just in case.
Try some just in case springs. See what happens.
Just see what happens.
Yeah.
And I always liked to, like, God either is or he isn't. And I'm the person that's like, I'm an optimist. So I'm going with this.
Exactly. One of the things that helped me tremendously this time around also was putting recovery first.
Yeah.
So Johnny Walsh told me to do those 5 things. And when we moved from New York to San Diego, as soon as we got there, we didn't drink and drug a day at a time.
Yep.
We made a meeting every day.
Yeah.
We got new sponsors. We found new home groups, and we continued to pray our butts off.
Yeah.
We'd go to the ocean. We lived right near the cliffs, and I'd stand there watching the sun come out of the ocean and say my prayers on a daily basis. So, life happens.
Yeah.
You get married, you get a business, you start to earn some money, you get friends, you get toys, you have a family. The thing that is so, I try to stress to people I work with, if I don't put my recovery before all of that, it sounds tough, before all of that, I'm not going to have to worry about being a businessman, a husband, a friend, a sponsor. I'm not going to have to worry all that stuff, because if my recovery doesn't come first, I lose all that.
All that goes away.
Yeah, and so I didn't understand that at first. I would be in the detoxes. People from H&I would come in, and they would say, listen, the first thing you do when you get out of here is you go to a meeting. Raise your hand. Tell them you just got out. Tell them you're looking for a sponsor. Go to a meeting every day. Do this, do that. And I would sit there and look at them and go, first, I got to pay that guy back. Then I got to see about getting that job I had. And then there's that girl. I got to find a place to live, See if I can get back in the house, Then I'll make a meeting.
Yep.
See, I didn't get it. If I made the meeting first and focused on staying clean and sober, I'll get all that tenfold. But I just didn't have any faith.
Priorities.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love that. It's like even now, like, and not, the time that I have, it's like you hear a lot of the stuff, right? And then all of a sudden you hear it again.
Yeah.
It's like I've never heard it before. Like, I love that. Thanks, Robbie. So one thing I do want to touch on too, which I don't really want to spoil anything.
Okay.
Because when I read this, like I had said, like I've heard your story, and and a lot of people I feel like will read this and it's like you said, it's a page turner.
Yes.
A lot of good information, a lot of shocking things, and a lot of insight into maybe why. And like you said earlier, who knows if it was the chicken or the egg thing, right?
Right, exactly.
But I find it really interesting that I didn't know until today, right, until you said this, is that for the ACOA stuff, that you were literally like 30 years sober, almost, or 29 maybe, and then realized the depth of some of this abuse and what it really did, or you didn't necessarily deal with it until that far into sobriety.
Correct.
Which is really crazy, because again, like, we deal with these things and maybe we just bury them. Right? Just bury it. I'll deal with that one later because that one was so deep. So what was that like? Because, when I first read this, it's like page 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No wonder.
So it's funny I said, whenever I would tell my story, before I went to the ACOA and I started the book, I would tell my story and I would say, I'll start off by saying I had a rough childhood. My mom was a product of foster care, and she had no tools to work with. My father was an Irish gangster who died when I was 9, and he was in prison most of that time. So I really didn't have too much of a shot. But after doing the ACOA thing, I now say, I had a rough start as a child, and my mother, she did the best she could, but she could have done better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she could have done better.
Yes.
The damage that and it's even good for people to read this who are going to have families, because that damage runs deep, and it really
Very
does.
much so.
You know, I at 12 years old, I tried taking my life. I cut my wrist. You know, my mother sent me to a psychiatrist. You know,
and then you watched her do that, though, right? So
I
like
did.
that was like that
That's
behavior.
where I got that tool.
Yeah,
Yes,
so that was really
exactly.
for me too. I'm like, of course, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of those things. Like, of course, these kids see things, and then you're like, I'm gonna try that. That almost worked for her.
Yeah.
And yes, who knows? Maybe you were just going to be this alcoholic person.
Right.
Great, right?
So,
but still.
people who read the book get a resentment at my mom. They really do, and I especially Diane.
I bet, because that's how I feel about my husband. So
I like to say that over the years, you know, I've made peace with her. And I have to say, you know, if I want people to forgive me for all the crap that I did to them, I have to be able to forgive her.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to have a good, you know, peaceful, serene life, and I did, and I made her proud. In you know, in the interim.
And that was one of the other things, because I with my parents, and none of this happened. My life paled in comparison.
Right.
But I always had that thing, that desire, right? You want to make them proud, and even though like why, right? And I loved that when you graduated from college, and you're like, I made her proud.
Yes.
And I was like,
you know,
oh.
where does that come from?
Where
even
does it come
even
from?
as the kid, who she, you know, beat, locked me outside. You know, I did this, doing the dishes made her happy.
Yeah.
And she never came home to a dish in that sink.
Yeah.
From that day on, you know, just to get her approval. It's something
approval.
Inside of us that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's inescapable. It's just
Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
And couple things.
Yep.
It's you're going to be on Colo 8 tomorrow, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so people can catch you on that, which is going to be always great.
Katie Roshetsky?
Oh, Katie
show.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
she was just at the Step 1 thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Our gala, that was great that you guys would have been here if you were here. And then also, so funny story, when I went to Barnes & Noble,
Yes.
they were like, what book? This gal.
Right.
And I'm like, and Brett's like showing the person, like, this one. And she's like, oh, I don't know. So she looks at her thing, she's like, I don't know. I'm like, you are having a book signing on Saturday. You better have 30 copies.
That's right.
So I went, and she got them all out. She's like, oh my God, you're so right. We have the whole box ready to go now. And I'm like, good. So that will be on Saturday. At what time?
Between 1 and 4
Awesome.
at Barnes & Noble on South Virginia Street.
And people can buy their copy and then get it signed.
And get it signed right there. And also, if people have bought a copy already
you can bring
online at Amazon or any retail outlet, I'll sign it. Just bring it there and I will sign it for you.
So cool.
Yes.
And obviously, like, people can chat with you and like.
Oh yeah,
and all the
we're going to be
things.
there for 3 hours. We'll be hanging out. Yes.
Because this is, you know, and I could talk to, and I said that to you beforehand, like, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about this. You know, and it's a very important thing. And, you know, when I got into real estate, I didn't really kind of see the parallels until recently, and I really got heavily involved in like political action committee and government affairs, because the housing issue and mental health is so embedded in real estate, and so it's really it's cool, but people don't understand the weight of this stuff. And so when people can read your story and also see the hope. And not the stuff that we maybe see on a regular basis, which are the stories that aren't so good.
Correct.
They see that there's good stuff.
Yes.
And I think it's really powerful and it's really helpful. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
Is there, and I know that I think we talked a lot about all the things, but I just want to make sure, because I know there was one other thing.
I've gotten really good feedback, you know, from people. You know, I wasn't sure. First I had to pray to write something that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of write it like no one would ever read it.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet, yeah.
So then once it went to the editor and publisher, then I started praying that I would be okay with, you know, the results of putting it out there.
I didn't really think
because,
about that,
you know, when they say, you know, when you say your book's an open life, I've really taken that to another level. I mean, my book is an open life. I mean, you want to, you know, you want to see it. But I will tell you that the worst things that have happened to me have been the most helpful to people who have read it.
For sure.
I have had so many people call me and identify with, from, you know, being abused as a kid to the sexual assault to trying to get clean and sober. And I had one guy call me last week and he goes, Robbie, you know,
My Be Grateful alarm, sorry.
I have finally got a name for that voice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure a lot of people.
He's been sober for a while because it still talks to him.
Yeah.
Not as, you know, and as I explain in the book, the larger my faith got, the smaller his voice got. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And
so cool.
Yes.
And there is a lot, I always like to say too, you know, because they talk about like how alcohol is cunning and baffling.
Yes.
Especially for people like us. And then I'm always like, you know what? Recovery is cunning and baffling.
It is.
Because when I got sober, my life went in all sorts of amazing directions because I showed up.
Yeah.
You know, that was the only thing I knew to do, went to be willing, and I was super honest, and I still am to this day, like to a fault. And that's what they said to do, and I just showed up and I waited and waited and waited, and miracles happened all the time.
It's so crazy how, you know, I think I took to alcohol and drugs because I worried all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe because of my child, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was a worrier.
Yep.
And as soon as I found alcohol, I was like, okay, I just got like 3 free hours of not worrying. And someone had asked me a question, like, what would I have told the young Robbie at this stage?
Yeah.
And I would have told the young Robbie, God is real.
Yeah.
And don't worry, if you ask him for help, he'll help you. So, because everything that's happened to me in sobriety, you know, the worst thing that happened, it was 6 weeks ago, and I forgot what it was because it's taken care of.
Yeah.
You know, I wasted so much time worrying.
Yeah.
Have I only had that faith? And of course the 12 steps, which I mean are so helpful, helping me get through life.
Right.
You know, I would have done a lot more laughing and a lot less worrying.
Yeah.
You know, had I known that what I know now.
Yeah, and it was so funny because I was wearing this like sweater today, and I was like, oh, that's so fitting. I'm like, just spirit lead me.
Yes.
Yes.
There
and
it
like
is.
it really is something that, what a gift we're
Yes.
given. You know, taking one too many drinks or drugging just a little too hard.
Correct.
Walking into this room with people that just love and care about you.
Yes.
And want you to succeed. I mean, that's been the most phenomenal thing. These relationships that you've made, and it's just like, these people care about me. Like my own family didn't care. Like
exactly, absolutely. I mean,
It's
we have
crazy.
so many friends, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the books. I'm so grateful for my life today.
Yeah.
I'm so, you know, and the friends we have, San Diego, and here in Reno, in Florida, in New York. You know, as a result of staying clean and sober.
It's crazy.
And I just wanted to add one more thing. I was thinking about this. You know, if you're thinking about getting clean and sober, you know, or you are clean and sober, and you are looking at your misdeeds in the past as something awful and terrible, if you can get and stay clean and sober, it's almost like we have a superpower.
Yep.
We have, because of all the stuff we've gone through, we can help another suffering alcoholic and addict.
Yeah.
Where somebody else, I don't care how much money they have, I don't care how smart they are, I don't care where they are in their level in society, they cannot help them like we can because of what we've gone through and what we've survived.
Yeah.
You know, so those bad defects become our best assets.
Yeah.
You know, if you let it play out.
Yes.
You know.
When I think more people are troubled
Yes.
than not.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
It's like, let's all find ways to help each other out,
Correct.
and really, like, again, like your experiences can benefit others.
Yep.
And it really is an issue. I mean,
Yes.
locally, it's off the charts. You know, mental health is a serious thing, and so I've always been the person being honest and like helping people on this platform for my business, because people may see it, have no idea what whatever, you know, or have no idea what the resources are that exist. So that's why I've always been honest about it, and I think it's helpful. So I'm glad that you've gone out on a limb.
It's a different game today, as we know, with the fentanyl. You know, over 100,000, you know, alcoholics and addicts are dying every year.
It's insane.
As a result of this fentanyl poisoning, really.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
Yes.
So it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you know, you go out, you have a few beers, you end up doing some drugs,
Yeah.
and you miss a couple of days of work, and you come back to AA and go, hey, or wherever,
Yeah.
NA, and say, hey, I have one day back. A lot of people don't make it back.
No.
They really don't. It is a serious problem. That's another reason I wrote the book, you know, to try to be helpful, you know,
Shed some light
in
on
that
it.
area, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how much it's even in our area. I mean, my husband as a medic firefighter, they see this all the time.
Yeah.
The fentanyl, the overdoses, the deaths, and not to mention just the alcohol related, you know, withdrawals
Correct.
and that kind of thing. But it's a daily thing for them.
Yeah, you know, this opioid thing. You know, I know people that had a back. They never had a drug problem their whole life.
Yeah.
They had a bad back. They got some, you know, oxy to take for, you know, their back.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, they're copping heroin in the street.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, in their 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's unbelievable.
Just normal folks in everybody's
normal
definition.
folk, correct.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute, very serious problem. You know, it is. And I think the marijuana, these legal marijuana, is a gateway drug. I believe that. You know, it was for me.
Oh, I'm
You know,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the number of you know, young teenagers ending up in hospitals for psychosis, because it's much more powerful than it was when I was young.
Or laced with something entirely different than you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
It isn't like, even when I was a kid, it was probably even different than you.
Right.
With what we could get.
Correct.
But now I can't even imagine. I would have had my contact with fentanyl easy as a child because of the stuff we were just trying.
Exactly.
So it's a terrifying reality.
Yeah. I talk about that. The marijuana. You know, of all the drugs, people have said to me, of all the drugs you've taken, what's the worst? And I go, marijuana.
Same. Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
I said, well, I never did an armed robbery to get more marijuana. I mean, just, you know, but mentally, it made me introverted.
Yeah.
It kept me from trying to, you know, as a young man, I should have been out there trying to,
especially with your
build
motivation.
Yes, you know, build a life for myself. You know, get a woman, start a family.
Yeah.
But because of all the pot I smoked, I got paranoid.
Yeah.
I second guessed myself. You know, I stayed quiet. I became introverted. It really stole my youth.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there was a period, I was stuck in stupid for about 7 years.
Oh, yeah. I don't doubt that.
It took a little while for that to get out of it took me a year or two actually for my head to clear up from the weed, but when it did, you know, I am that kid who was out there, you know, hustling, shining shoes and, you know, but going at it a different way.
Yeah.
So it's what a beautiful life we've been blessed with.
I know. And I'm so excited for you tomorrow for
Yes.
33 years.
I know. And it just so happened that Barnes & Noble, that's when they had the opening.
Cool.
On that day. And so, you know, we took it to do book signing.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey.
Wait, so it's tomorrow the signing?
No,
Saturday?
It's Saturday.
Okay.
But I mean, for me to be here in Reno during that time.
Like how perfect.
Yes.
And I'm sure you're going to do all sorts of other fun things because
Yes.
there are so many happy people that you're here.
Yes, and we're so excited to see them all.
It's going to be so good.
It is going to be, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so any last things? People can find this on, and we'll link it too, where I put this, and then, you know, you'll get copies of whatever,
Yes.
but you can buy it on Amazon.
Right.
You can also buy it here at Barnes & Noble.
Correct.
And I think you could buy online Barnes & Noble but yeah, Amazon's a great resource. What else?
The only thing I would say is if you're thinking about getting clean and sober, if you are clean and sober, because, you know, even a life clean and sober has its ups and downs. I like to think of my life in sobriety as playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You know. You know, fear, jealousy, this. There's always something popping up that the 12 steps can work on.
Yeah, for sure.
If you have a loved one who you think might need recovery, this might be a very good book for them to read.
For sure.
Because they'll get to take a look at, you know, an active alcoholic and addict and think, hey, maybe I need some help.
Yeah, maybe,
So-
and maybe there's hope for me too.
Exactly. And last but not least, if I could do it, you can do it. I mean, really.
Yes.
Yes.
No, and I
absolutely.
think that like that has a little bit more weight coming from somebody's story that has so many relatable things.
Yes.
You know, and it really is true.
Yep.
You know, the testimony in here is your success in
Yeah.
this, and not just the recovery, but also on the business side, right?
Yes.
If people have that ambition to really put some of this stuff in their past, they can.
Yes,
And
they
that's
can.
huge.
Yes.
So,
And you can end up using it to help others.
yes,
You know?
God has blessed
Yes.
us, and
They
may we
have.
bless others.
Yes, correct. That's right. Mind-𝒮𝒽𝒾𝒻𝓉. Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
Well, thank you
Good
so
stuff.
much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
It's so good to see
This
you.
has been great.
It's super fun.
Yes.
We could talk about it for hours.
Yes, we
but
could.
and maybe we could do it again.
Yes.
We can even do a Zoom after you've
Yeah,
gotten your
yes.
book tour, and we can talk
Yes.
about how it's going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just so great seeing you and watching your life flourish in recovery.
It's pretty cool watching our friends
Yes,
just out
it
there doing all
is.
these cool
I
things.
told Ayed I'm on Facebook, and I'm like, look at Jenna. Look at, she's like, she's killing it out there, you know?
Yes.
And she's engaged, and she's getting married.
Isn't
and
it crazy? And the time flies. Like we
Yes.
just celebrated 2 years.
Yes.
Insane, time flies. And just like his life too, I'm like the same way. Like you need to write a book because his
Yes.
story is something else too.
Yeah.
And there's so many more because now being on the board at step 1 with the male dominance, right? Because I
Correct.
do feel it's like a lost, they don't get as much
Yep.
because you don't have the children involved, which is sometimes great. You know,
Yep.
women and children need the things, and it's overlooked though because I
Yes.
feel like men just are supposed to get on out there and figure it out.
Right.
And you know, getting paroled out into Ridge House is what he did.
Yes.
And it helped tremendously. But he had to stay sober in prison, and his prison stories and all the things, he even says this, like we're at dinner in Hawaii, right? And we're just laughing about his county jail stories. My mom's like,
Right.
what? And people can't believe it because they don't have this interaction
Exactly.
normally. And so I think it goes without saying, like, thank you for putting it out into the world because
you're
I know
welcome.
you'll help
Yes.
a lot of people. And if you're just open to it, those interactions on the plane will
Yes.
continue to happen.
Correctly.
And it'll
Yep.
be so cool. So I'm
Yes.
so excited for you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Robbie.
All right.